Now that we've made it through the first funnel, I'm taking a look back over the bills that I was assigned to in subcommittee during the first few weeks of the legislature and kind of getting my head wrapped around what made it through, what we're still looking at, what's the good and what's the bad. I'm going to kind of break this down by committee. I sit on a lot of committees, but some of them have more bills passing through them than others. So first of all, in Veterans Affairs, I was only assigned to one bill so far in 2026. This bill would have eliminated the fees for veterans camping in state parks. I will say I agreed with the bill manager that maybe this bill went a little too far, and so I was looking forward to seeing it amended and passed through committee to create a reduction in fees for vets to enjoy our state parks. But instead, this bill never got amended and did not pass through committee, and so is done with being considered for the year, which disappoints me. Next up, in agriculture, I was also only assigned to one bill. This bill has a great intent. It's House File 2444. The idea is to make it easier for folks who are trying to make a go of diversifying their farm income, having on-farm activities and events. I really support the idea of this bill. I have some concerns about the specific language, but I understand we are going to see an amendment before this comes to the floor. It did pass out of Ag Committee on the 19th, and so I'm hopeful that we can get a really good version of this that I can support on the floor. Next committee I'm going to talk about is public safety. I was assigned to 5 bills in this committee, and all 5 of them have passed the committee. It's a little bit of a mixed bag. One of them is every year we get recommendations from the Board of Pharmacy to conform to the federal controlled substance schedules, and so that did pass. That's kind of not a huge deal. It's a very complex bill, but really what it does is say our state laws are the same as our federal laws, which just helps people to understand what the laws are with regards to controlled substances. That one did pass out of committee. The other one that is kind of a good bill, but I did vote no. We have a bill that would establish an electronic court notification system. I do support the idea of this bill. I think it's a great idea for people to be able to get notified of their court dates and information and updates via text. What I don't like about the bill is 2 things. First of all, it's an opt-out system, and I feel like we've been teaching people not to trust texts that say they come from the government. And so I would rather it be an opt-in system so that people know I asked for these texts and this is something I can trust, this information. The other thing about it is that we don't have a good source of cell phone numbers when people are arrested. And so not everyone is eager to give their cell phone number when they're being arrested. And people sometimes change cell phone numbers. I don't know how often you've tried to get a hold of someone whose number you got a few years ago, and it turns out they have a new number. But I've certainly had that happen. And so I think an opt-in system instead of an opt-out system would be better because we could make sure we have good cell phone number for that person when they opt into the system. Next up, that one did pass committee, and so I'm hoping maybe we'll see an amended version before it comes to the floor. I'm going to keep working on that. The next bill is a bill that would create massive penalties for folks possessing or bringing contraband materials into correctional facilities. This is a bill that was requested by the Department of Corrections, and I do understand what they're looking for here and what the goal is. I do understand that it's hard to run a corrections facility if people do not take seriously the penalties for contraband. That being said, I don't think this bill meets the mark. I think that you are potentially creating a lot of liability for folks that's going to be inconsistent across different facilities. Potentially we're codifying, meaning making a law out of a list that at a facility that can be changed without a lot of oversight. I just have real concerns about this one. So that's House Study Bill 510, and I'm hoping that one does not come to the floor, but I expect that it will. The next one is House Study Bill 651, which did pass committee and has been renumbered House File 2535. This one is another concerning bill to me. I have real First Amendment concerns here. This bill is designed to address what law enforcement is saying is a gap in code. It creates a criminal offense for written or electronic threats to kill, cause bodily injury, conduct a mass shooting, or an act of terrorism. Obviously, these are terrible things that people should not be doing, and we need to take them seriously, especially when swatting can shut down our schools, can divert resources from law enforcement. That being said, the penalties in this bill are higher than what I think we would all than the penalties for what I think we would all consider to be much worse offenses. And it's a big jump to go from a misdemeanor to a Class C felony. And I think that's really unreasonable. So I was not in supportive of this bill. It did pass committee, as I said. And then the last one in public safety is House Study Bill 705. This was one that I heard a lot about from home. This is the one that creates drug-free homeless service zones. This bill seeks to address a real problem that we are hearing about in places in Iowa, but I think it does it in the complete wrong way. It creates criminal penalties and liability for providers if they do not involve law enforcement when someone is transferring or providing or selling drugs in a facility. As written, it actually includes certain pharmaceutical drugs, not just illegal drugs. We were told there would be an amendment. We have not seen an amendment. So I do think that this bill is a mistake. The bill came from an out-of-state think tank. No one in Iowa has asked for this. The only group that spoke in favor of it at the subcommittee was that out-of-state think tank. It's a bad idea. The other big problem with it is that it would make all of our service providers potentially not liable for federal, state, or local grant funds for 3 years after one infraction of this code. And so a staff member making a choice could shut down the facility, essentially. It could really wreck their budgets. So I do not support House Study Bill 705. That has been renumbered House File 2584 since passing committee. All right, the last two committees where I was assigned bills have a few more. Natural Resources, I was assigned to 6 bills. The first one I'm going to talk about was a good bill that died yesterday. I'm really disappointed in that. House Study Bill 661 would have slightly expanded the bottle bill. Basically, the idea on this one was same can, same deposit. This would have taken those non-carbonated drinks like the Celsius drinks and similar that are not carbonated and put the same deposit on them as the carbonated version. I don't know exactly why this bill failed. My understanding is that there are some members of the Republican caucus who just don't like the bottle bill and don't like the redemption program and don't want to see it expanded. Then we have House Study Bill 736. This was a bill that came up kind of quickly and suddenly last week that has to do with picking and choosing which septic systems are available in our market. I'm not super supportive of that. I think that this should be a market decision. Although I have to admit, I learned a lot about septic systems last week. And this bill did not pass committee, so it did die on Friday. Next up, we have a bill, House File 2117, that I'm very supportive of. This will establish a pilot groundwater monitoring program in the state, essentially allowing the State Geologic Survey to partner with landowners to do well testing for groundwater levels. I'm very happy about that. It's a very small, pardon the pun, drop in the bucket of what we need as far as water monitoring goes. But we only have about 63 test wells across the state, and so this would allow the Geologic Office to expand that program and just get us more information about our groundwater. So I'm supportive. Then we have probably my favorite bill in natural resources, which was a bit of a roller coaster. Last year we had a bill that I was on that would have updated the definitions for beneficial use for water use permits. It was a great bill. It never made it to the floor. This bill was sort of that idea, but done in a different way, a little more complicated, with also some other bill language thrown into it. It was a mixture. And then it was amended for committee to take that idea from last year, the simple idea of changing the definition, of getting rid of one of the two conflicting definitions. So now I'm hugely supportive of this bill, very happy to see it pass through committee, and very much looking forward to seeing it come to the floor. That was House Study Bill 713, and it has now been renumbered House File 2642. Then we've got a couple of more complicated ones. Here in Iowa, we are starting to see hydrogen exploration. And because we've never really had an oil and gas industry in Iowa, this is something where our laws are way behind and we have got to catch up fast. So I do think it's very important we enact some laws around this, because right now property owners are not protected by our state laws. That being said, the bill that passed through committee on the 19th, I think is not quite right. I'm concerned about a few of the things in it, provisions relating to the timing of things, how much privacy the hydrogen exploration company is granted, 5 years of privacy over what should be public information about our resources underground. One of the great things about finally having a minerals industry in Iowa is that we might receive more information about what's going on under our feet. We just don't have the information that other states have. And so I think there's a real opportunity to make sure that the state is benefiting from an oil and gas industry in a way that other states have been able to do. So I'm pushing on that one, and I'm going to work hard on it. And then the last one I want to talk about is a little bit of a mixed bag. I don't really have any particular problem with this bill. It was a department bill basically asking us to make some updates to the DNR that were necessary. But I did want to talk about one kind of strange thing about this bill, because the bill removes a requirement in code that the director of the DNR be housed at the state capitol. And what bothered me about that was that the Department of Administrative Services, DAS, moved that state director out of the building almost a year ago, now over a year ago. And so the DNR has been in violation of state law for a year because they were required to do so by the Department of Administrative Services. And now they're saying, oh, let's fix the code so that we're not in violation of the law. In my opinion, DAS, Department of Administrative Services, should never be telling other departments that they are required to break the law. They need to be changing the code first, then making changes. And so that one just kind of bugged me. All right, last committee that I sit on that I want to update you on is education. Of course, more bills in education than in any other committee. So I was on 8 bills in the education committee. A couple bills that did not pass through it for the funnel. First one was House File 2187. This has to do with having youth-oriented community organizations provided access to space in the schools. This one was a little bit tricky, but the subcommittee, including myself, we really ended up feeling like this was a local control issue, that if folks are not being able to, for example, host scouting at their school, they need to be working with their local school boards, administrators, superintendents to figure out why that is, you know, whether there just aren't rooms available or whether there's some sort of a conflict or something like that. This didn't feel like something we should be doing at the legislative level. The next one that did not make it through the funnel, I'm thrilled to say, was a bill that would have modified teacher prep programs. It took out all preparation for diversity, equity, and inclusion theories or practices, all preparation for multiculturalism as behavioral or classroom management, all social emotional learning training, behavior conditioning models. It also had a very specific reference to returning to historical or traditional classroom management approaches, including analysis of classroom management models that were utilized before 1990. This was a big flag in our subcommittee because 1990 is when capital punishment was formally banned in schools in Iowa. And so there was a real concern that this bill was heading us towards a reinstatement of capital punishment in schools. And so not seeing this bill move forward is a big relief. The last bill that I was assigned to that did not move forward in education was one about students at non-public schools participating in some certain activities at the public schools. We never even had the subcommittee for this bill, so I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but I think maybe folks heard from their local schools and said, we just don't have the capacity. I'm not sure. So I was on 5 bills that did move forward. The first one is a great bill. It establishes a Seal of Civics Excellence program under the Department of Education. Local school districts will have the option of participating in this program, and the department will establish criteria by which students could demonstrate their civics engagement, and then their transcript and their diploma would reflect that they achieved that. I think that's a great program. I'm looking forward to seeing it implemented. Another bill that I'm on that passed through committee requires school districts to accept all forms of legal tender, so credit cards, cash, etc., checks, for entrance to an interscholastic athletic contest or competition. Basically, if you want to go see your niece's soccer game, you have to be able to pay with cash or a credit card for a ticket to that event. I will admit I voted no on this one. I was the only one on the committee who did. That was primarily because I did hear from school districts and from accountants about the fact that some school districts have gone away from accepting cash because of concerns, security concerns, right? When there's a cash box, there's an opportunity. And so I just felt that it was a little bit of a local control issue for us to say, no, you have to accept cash, when districts may have made that decision to go away from cash after a negative event or something happening. We don't know why each district made the decisions that they did. I also do understand why someone might want to leave their purse in the car, grab a $20 bill, and be able to just go into their kids or their grandkids or their friends' kids' event. And so I was sort of torn on this one, but I did feel like maybe there was a little bit of local control overreach going on there. Or local control over power. Like, we shouldn't be taking over the local control from that one. Then 3 bills in education that I was assigned to that are real problems. The first is House Study Bill 682, renumbered House File 2512. This is the bill that it's been dubbed the Charlie Kirk bill because it says the name Charlie Kirk in many places in the bill. It would have teachers lose their licenses for celebrating acts of politically motivated violence. It specifically is retroactive to the date of Charlie Kirk's death. This bill is a mess, and then it was amended in committee to include this whole extra section that was not in the original bill that would penalize anyone who's a school employee who helps students to organize a safe protest. It would add school days to the calendar for every day that there's a student protest, which there's nothing in here to pay the staff for these extra days that they're working. There's nothing in here to address the fact that if one school has 8 students who hold a protest, that would add a day of school for the entire district. This provision is insane, and it passed committee. So with, I will say, bipartisan opposition and partisan support. So that bill's a big bad no. It is now numbered House File 2512. We also have House File 2121. This was the Don't Say Gay 6 through 12 bill. Don't Say Gay K through 6 is already in the courts and could potentially declared unconstitutional, but for some reason, House Republicans felt it was absolutely vital to move forward with restricting talking about the existence of gay people in the classroom for all students of all ages in public, charter, and innovation zone schools, but not in private schools. So unsurprisingly, I'm a big fat no on this bill. It has been renumbered House File 2338, and it again passed the Education Committee with bipartisan opposition and only partisan support. Only Republicans said yes. Then finally, the last bill I want to talk about is House Study Bill 3636. This is the one that bans public schools from partnering with local libraries. My thoughts on this bill are summarized pretty easily. Why would we want kids to have less access to books? This bill would stop the bookmobile from going to your local school. This bill would stop kids from using their school ID to check out books at the local library. This bill would stop so many programs. And in addition, there are at least 8 schools in this state for whom the public library is their school library because they don't have the facilities to have their own local library housed in the school. And so this bill is horrible. Again, it passed Education Committee with Democrats and Republicans opposing, only Republicans supporting. It's a terrible bill, and I hope to see it never come to the House floor. But unfortunately, we can't plan on that. So thank you so much for listening. Some good things died, some bad things died, some good things moved forward, some bad things moved forward. But I'm going to keep working as we head into the second funnel. Thanks so much for engaging.